How you doing, Bob? Another week for Citizens for a Better Broome podcast.
Hi, Andy, and hi, listeners. Thanks for listening again. Here we are back in business trying to enlighten you about what's going on in Broome County and our surroundings. Check us out on Facebook. BobKingsley.com will get you most of our written material. And please, if you have comments or questions or want to participate, please look at our Facebook page to find out ways to do that. Andy, what do you got for us to begin?
It seems like I'm the bearer of gloom and doom sometimes, but the village of Endicott and the village or city of Norwich each received
It's a city, yep.
10 million apiece for revitalization projects through the CARES Act. The whole world is the United States world. They're getting tons of money through the CARES Act, but with 10 million going to the village of Endicott, that sure would revitalize the community and some of those brownfields and vacant lots that are down there. And then on top of that, just this week, the Senator Schumer was instrumental, I guess, in getting a $500,000 grant towards the lithium battery plant that is in Endicott at the old IBM facility. Curious that all this is happening with the new owners of the IBM complex.
Yeah, this is good news, certainly for Norwich and for Endicott, finding $10 million under the tree here just before Christmas. Keep in mind, folks, this is taxpayer money. This doesn't fall off of a tree. This is something off the backs of people who actually earn things and pay taxes, fees, and penalties to government so that they can collect it and redistribute it to projects like this. Andy, that reminds me of the request for proposal we just received finally from the village of Johnson City regarding the revitalization of the village. Citizens for a Better Broome is very interested in that project because before we even knew that that was a project, we had decided that the Johnson City Binghamton Arch that was erected back in 1927 by the workers of Endicott Johnson was a noble project for us to get behind. Thought was to light it properly. Right now it's kind of lit. It's got three round
Lights,
globes on top of it that kind of
and an extension cord coming out of it, or
and an extension cord, right, that goes to a box, but there is no significant lighting. And when we approached the mayor of Johnson City about that, he informed us that there was work afoot to do something regarding that. So we just found out the other day that the request for proposals has gone out. So we're trying to figure out a way to interject ourselves into that and provide some aesthetically pleasing lighting to that facility, because we feel it's a very important structure.
Well, it's a monument to the success of the early days of Broome County, if you will, towards the 19th century. And there's a lot of history.
Well, in the early days of capitalism. Yeah, the early days of capitalism and how capitalism can make people thrive. A lesson that I think we need to learn all over again. After 100 years, that lesson's faded.
Well, that looks that way with all the social engineering and the wokeness, if you will. And speaking of antiques here, and Dick Gottfeld is retiring from the assembly. He was elected in 1970 at the age of 23. And I think he's the poster child for term limits for the state of New York. And you've got to wonder, how did he stay in office for over 50 years, other than for bringing home the bacon for his Manhattan district?
He stayed in office because people continue to vote for him. I mean, you give the government you deserve. I'm torn about term limits, Andy, because on the one hand, I agree with you. Things like that shouldn't happen. But on the other hand, I'm disappointed in my fellow citizens for allowing that to happen. I mean, it's at our own hand that we suffer. After all, we elect these people. So I really don't, I've struggled with that concept for a long time. I don't know whether I'm for it or against it, to be honest with you. I can go either way. There's some good arguments on either side of that.
Well, we get the government that we deserve.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. A minute ago, you started to speak about wokeness. That reminds me of a local story. I don't know if you saw in today's Press and Sun Bulletin about a little dust up in Windsor a couple days ago.
Right.
The Windsor boys basketball team had some kind of gangsta night. And I guess this is something the school doesn't organize, but kids just impromptu do this. And I saw the pictures on Facebook. It looks like a big nothing to me. There's 10 or 12 kids that have something on their head. It doesn't at all, to me, look at all like a Black appropriation cultural thing at all. It looks like just a bunch of kids being goofy.
Right.
And this article that Sarah Imes wrote is, God, what a joke. I mean, this woman's seems to be a racist herself. She talks about these Black stereotypes like she invented them. She talks about baggy pants and chains like from prison. What the hell does that even mean? I see kids of all shapes, sizes, and colors and creeds wearing all sorts of creepy clothes, including baggy pants. So I don't know where she gets this stuff from. And, it's well-established law that clothing is a form of speech. It's a First Amendment thing. And now you're trying to read the minds of these kids and determine that they're somehow racially inappropriate. How do you exactly know that unless you have your own preconceived racist notions yourself that you're applying to them? So I think it's a big to do about nothing. Let these kids be kids, let's not hold them to some wickedly high standard of I am so holy that I don't appropriate any other cultures. Give me a break. Every culture is borrowed from every other that came along. We try to take the good stuff and leave the bad stuff behind. And that's how we progress as a people. So let's stop the pearl clutching up in Windsor and let the kids be kids.
Well, when you have 15 and 16-year-olds, you've got to cut them some slack. They're not even, thinking about all the topics that you just talked about with this reporter for Gannett newspaper. It's not.
Yeah, her reporting was deplorable as far as I'm concerned, because she clearly has an agenda. The first thing she does is interview the girls basketball coach at Windsor, who happens to be a Black man. Now, he wasn't even at the game, but her first thought is to interview him because he's Black, I guess. Why wouldn't you go to an adult at the game who saw everything and get a take from them? But, clearly she's got an agenda she's driving. I didn't like it. It was trying to vilify these kids, as you said, 15 and 16-year-olds. I mean, come on, they're kids, they're growing up, they're learning, and I don't think they did anything wrong. Look, this is part of culture. Turn on an NBA game and tell me what you're seeing, not only on the playing surface, but in the stands.
Exactly.
Get these images from.
Well, and they mimic.
Stupid.
Well, I swear.
Well, they mimic behavior. I mean, are you going to now tell them they can't buy Black rap music because they're culturally appropriating the music? I guess not. I don't think Jay-Z and everybody would want them to quit buying this stuff. I mean, I thought that copying something was the sincerest form of flattery.
Well, they're looking for any excuse to shame the American way of life, any way that they can downgrade it and to keep the races apart. That's how I see it. They're fighting.
I agree with you, Andy.
And to stick a wedge between us to destroy the country.
Yeah, much to do about nothing. So everybody, stop clutching your pearls up there in Windsor. Everything will be okay. You guys are, I'd call that Snow White country up there. So
well, and this adds another here from the progressive crowd is math is racist. Math is the most purest form. It's indisputable. And to turn around and say, well, math is racist, because I think that it doesn't matter what your race is. A lot of us have trouble with it anyway. You're trying to get beyond, algebraic equations and sine, cosine, etc., geometry. What you've got to study it. Frankly, some people get it better than others.
Well, yeah, I wish I would have known that, because I failed algebra in ninth grade the first time, and I would have claimed that it was culturally inappropriate for me, and that's why I failed it. That's such a joke. I mean, you know what? Yeah. Math is hard. It was hard for me too. I'm a white guy. I hated math because it was difficult. My mind doesn't work that way. I'm more of an English history guy. I'm not a math person. I'm not wired that way, so I get it. But it isn't difficult because it's racist. It's difficult because it's difficult.
And it's meant to be. If everybody got it, there wouldn't be the pyramids wouldn't
have gotten built.
Well, and moving forward here, they talk about dumbing down of our population. Over 400 localities in New York State have voted no to cannabis dispensaries. And it's telling me, it says a lot about the people and a lot about the residents of New York. They don't basically want legal weed, legal cannabis smoking. Of course, it's law now, and it's no way to, I don't think we're going to turn back on it in the near term. But when 400 municipalities and various districts or towns say no to dispensaries, even though it's still legal to smoke weed in your in your municipality, wherever you are, I think it says a lot.
I think it does too. And, you look at these in Pennsylvania and in Philly and New York, you've got these shooting galleries that they're
Oh gosh.
excuse me,
Right.
actively up and running. This is legalized, making sure with professional medical staff that these people don't OD. They're already bragging that they've saved 11 people from ODing. Are we supposed to celebrate that?
Right.
I'm not, and again, don't take that wrong. I don't mean that the people shouldn't have been saved from ODing. I'm saying that the fact that in that little circumstance, 11 people were saved from it tells me that the bigger problem is unfathomable and tremendous. And I don't think shooting galleries address the problem.
Absolutely not.
They
Right.
address a triage solution that also, I think, tacitly approves of the activity to begin with. So, you're going to get more of it when you approve of it. Something I think that politicians just don't learn from their mistakes.
Well, and nobody's looked at either that or not looking at the bigger picture. When you look at the conditions of the cities where you have rampant crime, rampant drug abuse, and the constant infighting between the various factions is where all the crime and the destruction and all the injuries that come from that. And that equals, well, they talk about algebra, A, B, C. You got crime, violence, drugs equals death.
Right. And the fact that we have to have a discussion about it like it's a debate is troubling, because when we're so far off track that we can't agree on whether farm and a farmer's market are racist or not, whether math is racist or not, whether 15-year-olds at a basketball game are culturally inappropriate. It seems that we've gotten so far off of any logical thought process that it's hardly worth having a discussion. Maybe that's the point.
Talk about getting off the point and getting about what's important in life. Now, there's another big dust up today with the Joint Commission on the Ethics. They want their
they're back in business.
Well, they want they voted 12-1 today to tell Como that they want the 5.1 worth of book profits, 5.1 million of profits. This is what they've indicated. I don't think that many. He probably didn't sell 100 of those books. I'm seeing
but
these.
He got an upfront fee
Right.
for it.
And all of these politicians.
They're going to say that because it was all done on state time, that the state owns the product.
Well, and it'll work its way through the courts. But having,
you know what I'd do if I were his lawyer, I'd say, let's get all the books we've got, bundle them up and put them on the stairs of the Capitol. Here you go. If you can sell them, good luck, because we couldn't.
All it was is a payday. All these politicians like the Clintons and the Obamas and everybody else, they're just getting a payday through the publishers, through the these companies that publish these books and such. That's my take on it anyway.
Well, think how screwed they feel. They paid $5 million to this jabron so that they could get some favorable governmental treatment, and now he's out.
He's out. They're going to get their payday. Well, they'll probably go after.
So do you go to Hochul and say, "Hey, Kathy, good news, bad news. There's a shitload of books on the front stairs of the Capitol. Is the good news. The bad news is you still on the hook for $5 million worth of graft that we need to extract from you.
We want our payday.
We want our payday, right?"
Well, Bob, I think we've covered it for today.
Well, thanks, folks, for listening. Again, if you do like what we do, pass it on to your contacts. We're working on moving our way out of this world and into that of commercial radio. So any contacts you have there would be good too. We consider everything we do an audition, and we hope we get better at it. We'd love your input, whether good or bad, just to get some feedback. So check us out on Facebook, bobkingsley.com for the writing material. Andy, good to be with you.
Sure.
Folks. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Click share on your Facebook page when you see our Podbean cast come up. Thank you.
Very good. See you, Andy.
Okay.